Hello, Senior Citizens Advice. Most people talk about intimacy in whispers, but very few ever look at it from a biological and health perspective. When a man swallows a woman's fluid, it is not just an erotic act. It is also a direct exchange of her body's chemistry. This fluid carries tiny amounts of proteins, sugars, immune markers, and even her natural microbiome. While the volume is small, your body still processes what enters it, just like it would with any other substance. Think of it like this. If you share a drink or kiss someone, you are already swapping bacteria and trace compounds. The difference here is that vaginal fluid also reflects her current state of health. If she is hydrated, eats clean, and maintains good reproductive health, her body chemistry is likely to be more balanced. If her diet is full of processed foods, alcohol, or she smokes, that balance changes. And so does your experience. From a medical point of view, your body can respond in subtle ways to repeated exposure. Some men even develop a tolerance to their partner's microbiome over time, which could reduce certain inflammatory reactions. But if there is an untreated infection or imbalance, your body might not welcome it. In this video, we will break down the science, the psychology, and the deeper connections behind this act. Watch closely until the end, because understanding what really happens can help you protect your health, deepen your intimacy, and make better choices for both you and your partner. Let's dive in. Number 1, you're literally ingesting her DNA. Let me put this in simple but fascinating terms. When a man swallows a woman's vaginal fluid, he is not just tasting her or experiencing a moment of intimacy, he is in fact taking in tiny traces of her DNA. This is not science fiction, it is biology at its finest. Vaginal fluid contains epithelial cells that naturally shed from the vaginal lining. Inside each of those cells is her unique genetic code. That means, for a brief moment, her molecular blueprint becomes part of your body's internal environment. Now, to be clear, this is not dangerous if she is healthy. Your digestive system is designed to break down foreign DNA every day. You do this every time you eat food because plant and animal cells all contain DNA. The difference here is that you are consuming genetic material that is uniquely human and uniquely hers. On a molecular level, your body is interacting with information that tells the story of her biology. It gets even more interesting when you think about how your immune system works. When foreign cells enter your body, your immune system notices, it studies them, and in some cases remembers them. This is part of why long-term couples sometimes develop a subtle tolerance to each other's bodily chemistry. Over time, your body recognizes her molecular patterns as familiar instead of foreign. For example, a 2012 study published in Nature Reviews Immunology explains how exposure to a partner's microbiome and genetic material over time can influence immune responses and even reduce inflammatory reactions. That means your body may literally adapt to her presence, making your connection more than just emotional or physical. It becomes biological. From a doctor's perspective, this is also why sexual health is not just about avoiding disease. It is about understanding the microscopic exchanges that happen during intimacy. If she has a healthy immune system and no infections, her DNA poses no harm to you. But if she carries certain pathogens within those cells, there is a chance they could be passed along during oral contact. When you realize this, swallowing her fluid is no longer just a moment of pleasure. It is a direct cellular level interaction between two bodies. You are not just sharing a kiss. You are sharing microscopic identity markers that your body reads, processes, and reacts to. This is why sexual health, trust, and mutual care matter far more than most people realize. Number 2, it may trigger a gut reaction, literally. Let's talk about something that many men never think about, but your body notices immediately. When you swallow a woman's vaginal fluid, you're taking in part of her microbiome, the community of bacteria and other microorganisms that naturally live in her body. If her vaginal flora is balanced and healthy, your body usually handles it without any problem. But if her flora is out of balance, your gut might react in ways you do not expect. The vaginal microbiome is dominated by beneficial bacteria, especially Lactobacillus species, which keep the environment slightly acidic to prevent harmful microbes from taking over. However, if there is an overgrowth of other bacteria or yeast, such as in bacterial vaginosis or a yeast infection, the chemistry of that fluid changes. The pH rises, the smell can become stronger, and the bacterial mix is different. When that enters your mouth and digestive system, your body may respond with nausea, a bad aftertaste, or in rare cases, mild stomach discomfort. Think of it like drinking water from a stream. If the water is clean, your body accepts it without protest. But if there is contamination, your senses, taste, smell, and sometimes your gut, will warn you that something is off. The same principle applies here. Your taste buds and digestive system are part of your body's early warning system. A 2020 study in Nature Microbiology explains that the human gut reacts strongly to unfamiliar bacterial strains, even in small amounts, triggering mild digestive changes as it tries to protect you. This means that if her bacterial profile is far different from what your body is used to, your gut may temporarily shift its activity to deal with it. From a doctor's perspective, this is why paying attention to taste and smell is not about being picky. It is about listening to your body. If the fluid has a sharp, fishy, or sour smell, it could be a sign of imbalance. This does not mean she is unclean. Imbalances happen to many women due to stress, antibiotics, hormonal shifts, or diet. But it is a cue for both partners to communicate and perhaps take a break until things are checked. Your gut is not just a digestion machine. It is a health detector. When something you swallow makes it uneasy, it is worth understanding why. In intimacy, ignoring those signals can turn a sweet moment into an avoidable discomfort. Number 3, there's nutritional value, but it's tiny. Let us get one thing clear from the start. Yes, a woman's vaginal fluid contains some nutritional components, but no, it is not a secret health drink that will replace your breakfast. From a purely biological perspective, vaginal fluid is made up mostly of water, but it also contains trace amounts of glucose, proteins, amino acids, and even minerals. In very small quantities, it also contains urea, which is a normal byproduct of the body's metabolic processes. The reason these nutrients are present is simple. Vaginal fluid is not just lubrication for intimacy. It is part of a woman's self-cleaning system, helping to maintain a healthy environment for her reproductive health. Glucose, for example, plays a role in feeding beneficial bacteria like lactobacillus, which keep harmful microbes in check. Proteins and amino acids support cell regeneration within the vaginal walls, while trace minerals help maintain tissue health. But here is where reality sets in. The volume of vaginal fluid produced during arousal or at rest is very small, and the nutritional content is microscopic. You might get more glucose from licking a crumb of cake off your finger than from swallowing vaginal fluid. According to biochemical analysis from a 2015 review in the Journal of Sexual Medicine, the average composition is over 90% water, with the rest being tiny traces of organic and inorganic substances. From a doctor's perspective, the nutritional value is scientifically interesting but practically irrelevant. Even if you swallowed every drop during intimacy, it would not give you enough energy to keep you from feeling hungry 5 minutes later. This is why I tell people not to fall for myths about bodily fluids being some kind of natural superfood. The human digestive system will break it down just like it does with saliva or mucus, and the effect on your body is negligible. However, the fact that it contains nutrients is a reminder that vaginal fluid is biologically active. It is not just moisture. It is part of a living system with its own chemistry and purpose. So while you should never think of it as a snack, you can appreciate it as another fascinating example of how the human body works in ways most people never think about. In intimacy, the value is not in the calories, it is in the connection. Number 4, your brain reacts like it's tasting something alive. When you taste vaginal fluid, your brain is not just identifying a flavor. It is processing a whole set of chemical signals that your body instinctively responds to, even if you are not aware of it. Unlike foods that are simply sweet, salty, sour, or bitter, vaginal fluid carries complex compounds that your senses read as alive, because it is. It comes from a living body rich with microscopic life, hormones, and biochemical markers. Your tongue is equipped with thousands of taste buds, but that is only part of the story. Inside your mouth and nose, you have a chemosensory system designed to detect subtle chemical changes. When vaginal fluid touches your tongue, these sensors pick up on pH levels, natural enzymes, and hormonal traces. Your brain then processes this information and makes a rapid judgment about what you are experiencing. It is not a conscious decision, it is an ancient survival mechanism, similar to how you can instantly tell if food is spoiled without thinking about it. From a biological point of view, these taste and scent cues can indicate reproductive health. A healthy vaginal environment dominated by lactobacillus bacteria will usually have a mild tang or slightly acidic taste due to lactic acid. If there is an imbalance, such as bacterial vaginosis, the flavor can become sharper, fishier, or metallic, signaling to your subconscious that something is not quite right. A 2016 review in Frontiers in Microbiology confirms that the human brain has evolved to detect such subtle chemical cues, many of which relate to fertility and health. This is why some men describe the taste as intriguing rather than simply pleasant or unpleasant. Your brain is actively decoding biological information. It is registering whether her hormonal cycle is in a fertile phase, whether her immune system is balanced, and whether her microbiome is in harmony. These signals are incredibly faint, but your primal brain has been wired for thousands of years to notice them. Think of it like wine tasting. An expert can pick up on hidden notes that others miss. In the same way, your senses are reading her unique biological signature, even if you do not have the words for it. This is why the experience feels different with each woman and even at different times with the same partner. Your brain is not just tasting a fluid, it is reading a living message from her body. Number 5, you might experience a mood boost. When you think about the human body and pleasure, most people focus only on physical sensations, but there is another layer that is just as powerful, the chemistry happening inside your brain. During oral sex, your body naturally releases feel-good chemicals like oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, and dopamine, the brain's reward signal. These are the same chemicals that surge when you hug someone you love, laugh deeply, or achieve something meaningful. They are nature's way of reinforcing connection and pleasure. Now, when a man chooses to swallow a woman's fluid, something interesting happens. The act itself can feel more intimate, even vulnerable. For some, it carries a sense of closeness and trust. For others, it may feel slightly daring or taboo, which can heighten excitement. Your brain responds to both the physical and emotional meaning of the act. That added emotional charge can lead to an even stronger release of oxytocin and dopamine than you might get from the physical stimulation alone. A 2017 study in psychoneuroendocrinology found that intimate acts involving deep trust and perceived vulnerability tend to create higher spikes in bonding hormones compared to casual physical touch. This means that your brain is not just reacting to what is happening in your mouth or body, it is also reacting to what the act symbolizes for you and your partner. From a doctor's perspective, this is why certain sexual experiences leave people with a lasting sense of connection and satisfaction, while others feel purely physical and fade quickly. When your brain links pleasure with emotional depth, the after effects can include calmness, affection, and even reduced stress. Some men describe feeling more protective or more emotionally drawn to their partner afterward. Of course, this reaction is not guaranteed for everyone. It depends on the relationship, the level of trust, and your own mindset during the act. But when all these factors align, swallowing can go beyond being a simple physical choice. It becomes a psychological and biochemical event, one that can lift your mood, deepen your connection, and create a memory your brain will want to revisit. In other words, the pleasure is not just in the moment. Your brain keeps the glow long after the act is over. Number 6, it might trigger jealousy or possession. This is where intimacy moves beyond the body and into the territory of instinct. For some men, swallowing a woman's fluid is not just a sexual act. It can trigger deep primal feelings of ownership or protectiveness. They might not consciously think, "She's mine," but on a subconscious level, their brain is processing the act as a unique and powerful exchange. From an evolutionary perspective, our ancestors were wired to be highly protective over partners they had intimate access to, especially if reproduction was a possibility. Even in today's modern world, traces of that instinct remain. When you swallow a woman's fluid, you are taking in something deeply personal, something that no one else has in that exact moment. That exclusivity can create a subtle but strong emotional reaction. Some men describe it as a rush of closeness that makes them want to guard the relationship more fiercely. Others feel a spike of jealousy at the thought of her being that vulnerable with someone else. This is not always a sign of insecurity. It can be the brain's natural way of reinforcing a bond. A 2015 study in evolutionary psychology found that certain intimate acts can increase protective behavior in men. especially when the act involves direct exchange of bodily fluids. I've had patients tell me that they did not expect such feelings but noticed a shift after the experience. One man said he felt locked in to his partner afterward, almost like a switch flipped in his brain. Another admitted that it made him less comfortable with the idea of her being flirted with by others. Of course, not every man reacts this way. Personality, relationship dynamics, and personal values all play a role. But for those who do, it is important to recognize that the feeling comes from a mix of biology and psychology. It is the body's way of saying, this connection is valuable, protect it. In a healthy relationship, that instinct can lead to greater commitment and care. In an unhealthy one, it can fuel possessiveness or control. Understanding where that feeling comes from can help you manage it, rather than letting it control you. After all, the most lasting bonds are built on trust, not just instinct. Number 7, her diet directly affects your experience. What a woman puts into her body does not just affect her health, it directly shapes the taste, smell, and even texture of her vaginal fluid. This is because her diet influences her overall body chemistry, which in turn affects the composition of her natural lubrication. Just as eating certain foods can change the way your sweat smells or your breath tastes, it can also alter the intimate experience you have with her. When a woman eats a clean, balanced diet rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and drinks enough water, her body produces fluids that are generally milder, fresher, and in some cases slightly sweet. Pineapple, citrus fruits, and berries, for example, contain natural sugars and acids that can subtly improve taste. Consistent hydration also keeps the fluid less concentrated, which can make it smoother and more neutral. On the other hand, diets heavy in processed foods, red meat, sugar, excessive alcohol, and cigarettes tend to create a very different profile. These choices can increase acidity or leave stronger chemical compounds in her system. This sometimes results in bitterness, a metallic tang, or a more pronounced smell. A 2014 study in the Journal of Food Science explains how volatile compounds from food and drink can enter bodily secretions, altering both their scent and taste. Even short-term habits can make a difference. A weekend of heavy drinking or smoking can leave a noticeable change in the way she tastes for days. Similarly, dehydration can make fluids thicker and more concentrated, intensifying both flavor and smell. From a doctor's perspective, this is not just about taste preference, it is also about overall reproductive health. Diets rich in fresh plant-based foods support a healthy balance of lactobacillus bacteria in the vaginal microbiome, which helps maintain a slightly acidic pH and prevent infections. Poor dietary choices can disrupt this balance, leading to changes not only in flavor, but also in vaginal health. For couples who care about their intimate experience, this is a good reason to view diet as a shared responsibility. If you both eat clean, stay hydrated, and avoid habits that introduce harsh chemicals into the body, the difference in intimacy can be remarkable. In this sense, what she eats is not just fuel for her, it becomes part of the experience you share together. Number 8, you're swallowing her immune signals. When you swallow a woman's vaginal fluid, you are not just tasting moisture or sharing a moment of intimacy. You're also taking in part of her immune system, literally. Vaginal fluid contains immune messengers called cytokines, along with other proteins and antibodies that help protect her reproductive tract from harmful bacteria, viruses, and fungi. These are part of her body's natural defense network, and when you ingest them, you are briefly interacting with her immune chemistry on a cellular level. Cytokines act like chemical text messages between immune cells. They tell her body when to ramp up defenses, when to repair tissue, and when to call off an immune response. Antibodies in her fluid work like tiny targeted missiles, locking onto specific pathogens to neutralize them. While your digestive system will break these down, just like it does with proteins from food, for a moment you're in contact with a part of her immune identity. From a biological perspective, this exchange is fascinating. It is similar to how a mother passes immune factors to her baby through breast milk, a sharing of biochemical information. Of course, in this case, it will not make you immune to anything she's immune to, but it is still a rare example of two bodies briefly sharing molecular defenses. A 2018 review in Nature Reviews. Immunology highlighted how sexual contact exposes partners to each other's immune signatures. sometimes leading to subtle adaptations over time. Long-term partners may actually develop reduced inflammatory reactions to each other's microbiomes, suggesting the body learns to treat the partner's chemistry as normal. This is also why sexual health matters so much. If her immune system is currently fighting off an infection, those same cytokines and antibodies may be targeting pathogens that could be passed to you. While healthy immune signals will not harm you, harmful microbes in the mix could. So when you swallow her fluid, you are not just engaging in a physical act. You are, for a brief moment, connecting with her body's internal defense network. You are meeting her immune system at the molecular level, a place where her biology is actively working to keep her healthy. It is one of those hidden layers of intimacy most people never think about, but it is happening all the same. Number 9, it can be a power exchange. In the world of intimacy, not everything is purely physical. Sometimes what happens between two people carries a deep psychological meaning, and swallowing a woman's fluids can be one of those moments. For some couples, especially those who explore dominance and submission dynamics, this act can feel like much more than a biological exchange. It becomes a statement of power, control, or surrender. In a submissive context, swallowing may be seen as an act of symbolic surrender. The man is taking something deeply personal from her body and willingly accepting it, almost as a way of saying, I give you this control. It can create a charged emotional atmosphere where vulnerability is not a weakness but a deliberate choice. That choice can make the act feel more intense and memorable. On the other side of the spectrum, it can also be an act of power claiming. For some men, swallowing can feel like a way of taking ownership, not in a possessive or unhealthy way, but as a primal assertion of connection. I have taken a part of you into me. This can feel deeply bonding and even ceremonial for those who view it through that lens. Psychologists have long understood that sexual acts can carry layered meanings beyond pleasure. A 2019 review in Archives of Sexual Behavior noted that when couples engage in acts they mutually agree are symbolic, those acts often create stronger emotional imprints than purely physical encounters. The mind remembers the feeling and the story behind it as much as the physical sensation itself. Of course, for this to work in a healthy way, consent and communication are essential. Without mutual understanding, the act can be misinterpreted or lose its meaning. But when both partners are on the same page, the exchange becomes more than a fleeting moment. It becomes part of the couple's private language, a wordless way to express trust, dominance, submission, or a blend of all three. This is why in certain relationships that single choice, to swallow or not, carries far more weight than most people realize. It is not just about taste or sensation. It is about what the act represents in the emotional and psychological dance between two people. Number 10. In some cultures, it's spiritually significant. In the modern world, most people view sexual acts purely through the lens of pleasure, reproduction, or health. But in some ancient cultures, swallowing a woman's vaginal fluid carried a much deeper and more symbolic meaning. In tantric and shamanic traditions, for example, it was sometimes considered sacred, a physical essence that held spiritual power. In certain tantric teachings from India, the female sexual essence, sometimes called amrita, was seen as a life-giving fluid linked to creation itself. Practitioners believed that ingesting it could help a man align with feminine energy, balance his own inner polarities, and even access higher states of consciousness. It was not done casually, but as part of a structured ritual with intention, meditation, and mutual respect. The act was as much about spiritual connection as it was about physical pleasure. Similarly, in some South American shamanic practices, the womb was viewed as the seat of creation and cosmic power. A woman's sexual fluids were seen as containing the energy of life and fertility. Shamans taught that by taking this essence into himself, a man could symbolically connect with the cycle of birth, renewal, and the earth's creative forces. These beliefs were rooted in the idea that sex was not just a physical exchange, but a bridge between the human and the divine. While modern science does not support mystical claims of enlightenment from ingesting bodily fluids, anthropology shows these rituals had profound cultural impact. They strengthened bonds, deepened trust, and reinforced gender roles and spiritual beliefs within the community. According to a 2001 study in the Journal of Ritual Studies, such practices often acted as a symbolic way of uniting the masculine and feminine principles both within individuals and in relationships. From a doctor's point of view, it is important to separate the symbolism from the biology. Vaginal fluid cannot literally grant cosmic consciousness, but the psychological and emotional impact of a deeply symbolic act can be very real. When two people share an intimate experience that they both view as sacred, their perception of that moment changes. It becomes larger than the act itself. For those ancient cultures, swallowing her fluid was not a casual decision. It was a deliberate ritual, a way to honor her, connect with life's creative energy, and step into a space where sex and spirituality were inseparable. Number 11, you're exposing yourself to her energetic frequency. Some things that happen between two people in intimacy cannot be fully explained by biology alone. This is where the idea of energetic frequency comes in. Call it metaphysical, call it psychological, but many people believe that when you engage in deeply personal acts, such as oral contact and swallowing a woman's fluid, there is more being exchanged than just physical matter. In energy-based philosophies, every human being is said to carry a unique vibrational frequency, a kind of invisible signature shaped by thoughts, emotions, and health. When two people connect in such an intimate way, that frequency is believed to blend and transfer. The idea is not entirely foreign to science either. Psychologists know that humans absorb emotional states through a process called emotional contagion. If you spend time around someone who is anxious, you can start feeling uneasy yourself. Likewise, if she is calm and grounded, you may feel more centered after being close to her. Applied to oral intimacy, some men report feeling noticeably different afterward. With a loving and balanced partner, the after effects may include a sense of calm, deeper connection, or even mental clarity. With a partner whose energy feels chaotic or emotionally heavy, the opposite can happen. You might feel drained, restless, or emotionally unsettled. While these sensations are subjective, they can be powerful enough to shape how you view both the act and the person. In tantric traditions, this concept is tied to energy exchange, the idea that sexual acts open a channel where emotional and spiritual states flow between partners. A 2012 study in the Journal of Nervous and Mental Disease even found that sexual interactions can measurably alter mood and stress hormone levels for days afterward, supporting the idea that something more than momentary pleasure is at work. From a doctor's perspective, even if we set aside spiritual language, there is a psychosomatic truth here. Your body and brain remember intimate moments, especially those with strong emotional undertones. If the connection is healthy, that memory can be uplifting. If it is toxic, it can leave you unsettled long after the physical sensations have faded. This is why being mindful of who you share such intimate exchanges with matters. You are not just sharing a physical moment. You may be taking in part of their emotional world, for better or worse. In final words, if we strip away the myths, taboos, and jokes, the truth is simple. Swallowing a woman's fluid is not just about a moment of passion. It is a real exchange between two bodies. You are taking in something that carries her chemistry, her health signals, and even her emotional energy. That means your experience, whether pleasant or uncomfortable, is directly tied to her lifestyle, hygiene, and overall well-being. This is why health matters for both of you. Just as you would be mindful about the food you eat or the water you drink, you should also think about what your partner's body produces. If she eats clean, stays hydrated, and maintains good reproductive health, your body will likely respond more positively. On the other hand, poor diet, smoking, heavy alcohol use, or untreated infections can affect not only the taste and smell, but also how your system reacts. As a doctor might explain to a patient, your body does not see intimacy as just fun. It processes everything, from the microbiome you are exposed to the emotional chemicals that flood your brain. For example, frequent exposure to a partner's healthy flora may even help your immune system adapt to it over time, but the opposite is also true. If there is an imbalance, your gut might not appreciate the surprise. So if you want the experience to be enjoyable, safe, and meaningful, both partners need to invest in their health. That means regular checkups, open communication about any discomfort, and respect for each other's bodies. In this video, we are going beyond the surface and giving you the facts. the biology, the psychology, and the deeper connections most people never think about. Watch to the very end, because what you learn here could change how you look at intimacy forever. It is not about fear. It is about knowledge, care, and making choices that lead to better experiences for both of you. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in our next exploration.